When I walked into that courtroom, my son John laughed under his breath, and his wife Dana shook her head like I was some confused old woman. They thought I'd crumble. They thought they could erase me with a few lies and a forged signature claim. But what they didn't know was I wasn't just their grieving mother who baked cookies on Sundays. I was the woman who used to terrify corporate lawyers in federal courtrooms. The moment the judge recognized me, everything changed. If your own family turned against you for money, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. My name is Betty Sinclair. I'm 68 years old, a widow, and until 3 months ago, I believed I had raised a good man. My husband Richard died just before spring, March 14th to be exact. It was raining that day, not the poetic kind of rain people write about in books, just the kind that ruins your shoes and soaks through your sleeves. I buried the only man who ever truly understood me, and my son John stood beside me like a stranger. I told myself it was grief. That was easier than the other thought creeping in. Maybe he just didn't care. And 3 weeks later, I was served with legal papers claiming I had forged Richard's will and was mentally incompetent to manage the estate by my own son. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you raised, hit subscribe, because this story isn't just about inheritance. It's about what happens when the person you underestimated turns out to be the most dangerous opponent they ever faced in court. The funeral home smelled like lilies and regret. Richard's casket sat at the front of the room, closed because the cancer had taken too much from him. In those final weeks, I'd insisted on closed casket. I wanted people to remember him as he was strong, laughing, alive, not as he'd become. John sat beside me in the front row, his wife, Dana, on his other side. They'd flown in from California 2 days before Richard died, not to help, not to say goodbye, to make sure they were present for the end. Mom, have you thought about what you'll do with the house? John had asked the night Richard passed. I'd stared at him. My husband of 40 years was still warm in the next room, and my son was asking about real estate. Not now, John. I just mean it's a lot of house for one person. And the market's good right now. You could downsize, have money to live on. John, not now. At the funeral, people came through the receiving line offering condolences. He was a good man. You were lucky to have him. If you need anything. John smiled and shook hands, played the dutiful son. But I noticed he kept checking his watch. Dana kept scrolling through her phone. After everyone left, John approached me. Mom, we need to talk about Dad's will. We will. Later. When? When I'm ready. The lawyer said we should meet this week. Get things settled. Your father just died. I know, but these things have timelines. Legal requirements. We should handle them efficiently. Efficiently. Like Richard's death was a business transaction. Dana touched his arm. John, maybe give your mother some space. For a second, I thought she was being kind. Then I saw her face. It wasn't kindness. It was strategy. Don't push too hard too fast. Let the grief soften her first. Okay, John said. But Mom, we'll need to meet with the lawyer soon. There are decisions to make. I looked at him, really looked at him. When had my son become this stranger? This man who calculated timelines at his father's funeral? Fine, next week. I'll call the lawyer. They left for their hotel. I stayed at the funeral home until the staff started turning off lights. When I finally went home, the house was dark and silent. Richard's reading glasses sat on the side table, his coffee mug in the sink, his jacket on the hook by the door. I sat in his chair and cried until I had nothing left. And somewhere in that grief, I remembered something Richard had said 3 months before he died. Betty, if anything happens to me, watch John carefully. Dana's been asking about the estate, about what we have, about what he'll inherit. I don't trust her. John's our son. He's not good. It's not John I'm worried about. It's her. She'll push him, and he'll listen because he always does. I dismissed it. Thought Richard was being paranoid. Thought his illness was making him see threats where none exist. But sitting in his empty chair, I wondered if he'd been right. The lawyer's office was downtown, in one of those glass buildings that made everything feel cold and impersonal. I arrived early. John and Dana arrived exactly on time, both dressed like they were attending a business meeting, not learning how my dead husband had divided his assets. Betty, thank you for coming. James Morrison, our family lawyer for 20 years, greeted me with a sad smile. I know this is difficult. It's fine. Let's just get it done. We sat in his conference room. James pulled out a thick folder. Richard updated his will 6 months ago. He began. I blinked. Yes. He came in alone, said he wanted to make some changes. What kind of changes? James looked uncomfortable. He left very specific instructions about how I should present this. He asked me to read certain sections first. Okay. He opened the document. To my wife, Betty Sinclair, I leave the entirety of my estate, including all liquid assets, properties, retirement accounts, and personal possessions. She has been my partner in every sense for 40 years. Everything I built with her. It all belongs to her. I felt my throat tighten. Of course, Richard would say something like that. To my son, John Sinclair, I leave my coin collection and my tools from the garage. He showed interest in both when he was younger. I hope he remembers those days fondly. Silence. Then John spoke, voice tight. There's more. Richard added a letter specifically for you. James slid an envelope across the table. John opened it with shaking hands. I watched him read, watched his face go from shock to angry to red. This is bullshit, he said finally. What does it say? Dana asked. He's cutting me out. Basically, Mom gets everything. Dana turned to me, eyes cold. Why would he do that? I don't know. I didn't know he'd changed the will. You had to know, John said. You had to. I didn't. He never told me. That's convenient. James cleared his throat. John, your father was very clear. He came to me of sound mind and body. He knew exactly what he was doing, or someone convinced him to do it. John stared at me. Mom, did you tell him to cut me out? No, John, I had no idea. You've been the executor of his affairs for years. You manage his accounts. You convinced him I didn't deserve anything. That's not true. Dana leaned forward. Betty, this doesn't make sense. You and Richard always said John was your heir. Why would he suddenly change that? I don't know. Unless you influenced him. Unless you made him think John didn't deserve his inheritance. I would never... Betty, James interrupted firmly. You don't have to defend yourself. Richard made his choices independently. I have the documentation to prove it. Documentation can be fabricated, Dana said. Excuse me? I'm just saying, if Betty wanted the estate for herself, she'd need Richard to sign a new will. An elder woman managing her sick husband's affairs? That's a recipe for undue influence. My chest tightened. Are you accusing me of manipulating my dying husband? I'm saying it looks suspicious. It looks like a man providing for his wife. We were married for 40 years. And John is his son, his only child. Cutting him out completely? That's not normal. James stood. This meeting is over. John, Dana, Richard's will is legal and valid. If you have concerns, take them up with the probate court. But I can assure you this document will hold up to any challenge. They left, but at the door Dana turned back. We'll be contesting this, she said. You'll hear from our attorney. The door closed. I sat in the conference room, hands shaking. Betty, James said gently. Richard warned me this might happen. What? He said John's wife would push him to contest. He said she'd been asking about the estate for months, making comments about how much everything was worth. Why didn't he tell me? He didn't want to worry you. He was sick. He wanted his last months to be peaceful. But he made sure the will was ironclad. He knew there'd be a fight. What do I do? Nothing. Let them file their challenge. Let them waste their money on lawyers. This won't be overturned. But as I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The petition arrived 2 weeks later. Certified mail. Legal letterhead. Sinclair v. Sinclair. Contest of last will and testament. I read through it with growing disbelief. John claimed I had unduly influenced Richard while he was medically compromised, that I had forged his signature on the updated will, that I was mentally incompetent and shouldn't be trusted with estate management, and that the previous will should be reinstated. Every claim was a knife. Every accusation of betrayal. My son thought I was a liar, a thief, incompetent. I called James. Did you see this? I did. It's baseless. We'll respond and request dismissal. They're saying I forged Richard's signature. We have the notary's testimony, video footage from my office, 3 witnesses. The signature is authentic. They're calling me mentally incompetent. We'll get you evaluated. You'll pass with flying colors. This is a desperate attempt to overturn a legitimate will. Why is he doing this? Because his wife wants money, and he's too weak to tell her no. After I hung up, I sat with the petition in my lap, reading it again and again. Betty Sinclair manipulated her sick husband into signing a will that disinherits his only child. Betty Sinclair shows signs of cognitive decline and is unfit to manage a complex state. Betty Sinclair has a history of controlling behavior and financial manipulation. None of it was true, but it was in a legal document, filed with the court. Public record. My son had called me a liar and a fraud in writing. That night, I pulled out a box I kept in the back of my closet. Inside were newspaper clippings from 30 years ago. Headlines: Attorney Betty Ward wins landmark corporate fraud case. Federal prosecutor calls Ward one of the most formidable litigators in the state. Ward secures $45 million settlement in pension fraud case. I had retired from law 15 years ago. Walked away to spend time with Richard, to garden and travel and live quietly. I'd been Betty Sinclair, homemaker and grandmother, for so long that I'd almost forgotten I used to be Betty Ward, attorney. But I hadn't forgotten how to fight. I called James back. I want to respond personally. I want to be in that courtroom. Betty, that's not necessary. I can handle... James, I spent 25 years practicing law. I know how this works. And I know my son, if I don't show him I'm serious, he'll think he can push me around. Okay? But Betty, this is going to get ugly. Family cases always do. Let it get ugly. I'm ready. What I didn't say, I was more than ready. I was trained for this. And John had no idea what he just started. The courtroom was smaller than the federal ones I used to practice in. But the weight of it, the wood paneling, the judge's bench, the American flag, it brought everything back. I sat with James at the plaintiff's table. John and Dana sat across from us with their attorney Marcus Webb. Judge Patricia Morrison entered. Mid-50s, sharp eyes, reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked at the file, then at me, then back at the file. Then she looked at me again, harder this time. Counsel, approach, she said. James walked to the bench. Marcus followed. They spoke in whispers. Judge Morrison looked at me one more time, then nodded. We'll proceed, she said. Mr. Webb, present your opening argument. Marcus stood. Your Honor, this is a straightforward case of elder abuse and undue influence. John Sinclair's father, Richard Sinclair, died 3 months ago. 6 months before his death, while severely ill with terminal cancer, he allegedly signed a new will, leaving everything to his wife and almost nothing to his son. Allegedly? Judge Morrison raised an eyebrow. We believe the signature was forged or coerced. We believe Betty Sinclair took advantage of her husband's compromised mental state to secure the entire estate for herself. Do you have evidence of this? We have testimony that Betty controlled all of Richard's affairs in his final months, that she isolated him from family, that she made all financial decisions without input. And the signature? We're requesting a handwriting analysis. Mr. Morrison responds. James stood. Your Honor, Richard Sinclair was of sound mind when he signed this will. We have notary testimony, video evidence, medical records showing he was cognitively intact, and testimony from multiple witnesses that this was his independent choice. Why did he change his will? That's personal to the deceased, but it was his right to distribute his assets as he saw fit. Judge Morrison looked at me. Miss Sinclair, do you understand the proceedings? I stood. Yes, Your Honor. And you're competent to participate? Yes. She studied me for a long moment. Have we met before? My heart skipped. Possibly, Your Honor. I practiced law for 25 years. What kind of law? Corporate litigation? Fraud cases primarily? Federal court? Her eyes widened slightly. Betty Ward? Yes, Your Honor. That was my maiden name. The courtroom went silent. Marcus looked confused. John leaned forward, whispering to Dana. Judge Morrison sat back. Mr. Webb, did you know the defendant used to be an attorney? I know, Your Honor. Not just an attorney. One of the best corporate fraud prosecutors in the state. She argued before the Supreme Court twice. Marcus's face went pale. Judge Morrison looked at John. Mr. Sinclair, did you know your mother was a lawyer? John stood slowly. She retired before I was born. But you knew. I knew she used to practice. I didn't know she was legendary. Judge Morrison finished. Betty Ward was known for demolishing fraudulent cases, for finding every hole in every argument, for making opposing counsel look foolish. She looked at me. I clerked for Judge Anderson when you argued the Brennan case. I've never forgotten it. I felt something warm in my chest. Thank you, Your Honor. She turned to Marcus. So let me understand. You're claiming Betty Ward, a woman who spent 25 years investigating and prosecuting fraud, committed fraud against her own husband. We're claiming undue influence, which is a type of fraud. You're claiming one of the most respected fraud prosecutors in Massachusetts history somehow manipulated her dying husband without leaving a single piece of evidence, Your Honor. And you're claiming she's mentally incompetent? The woman who argued constitutional law before SCOTUS? Marcus opened his mouth, closed it. We didn't know about her background. Clearly, Miss Ward, Miss Sinclair, would you like to respond to these allegations? I stood, and for the first time in 15 years, I felt like a lawyer again. Your Honor, my husband Richard changed his will because he wanted to provide for me. We were married for 40 years. We built a life together. He knew I would honor his memory and manage our assets responsibly. He also knew, I glanced at John. He knew my son was being influenced by his wife to view me as an obstacle to inheritance rather than as his mother. That's not true. Dana burst out. Mrs. Sinclair, please, Judge Morrison said coldly. You'll have your chance. I continued. Richard told me 3 months before he died that Dana had been asking about his estate. About what we owned? About when John would inherit? He was concerned, so he updated his will to protect me. Do you have evidence of this? James stood. We have Richard's letter to John written in his own hand explaining his decision. I'd like to see that. James handed up the letter. Judge Morrison read it in silence. Then she looked at John. Mr. Sinclair, did you read this letter? Yes. Your father explicitly states he's leaving everything to your mother because he trusts her judgment and because he's concerned about your wife's financial influence. How do you respond? John looked at Dana, then back at the judge. I think he was confused. Sick. Not thinking clearly. Or he was thinking very clearly and saw something you chose to ignore. Your Honor, that's not fair. What's not fair is you dragging your mother, a woman who sacrificed her legal career to raise you, into court and accusing her of fraud. Judge Morrison closed the file. Mr. Webb, unless you have actual evidence of forgery or mental incompetence, I'm inclined to dismiss this petition. We request a competency evaluation. Fine, we'll order one. But I'm warning you, if Betty Sinclair passes, which she will, you'll owe her legal fees. Your Honor, we're adjourned. Competency evaluation will be scheduled within 2 weeks. Next hearing in 30. She banged her gavel. As people filed out, Judge Morrison stopped me. Ms. Ward, Miss Sinclair, it's an honor to see you again. No, I'm sorry it's under these circumstances. Thank you, Your Honor. For what it's worth, I don't believe a word of their claims. But I have to follow procedure. I understand. As I walked out of the courtroom, I heard Dana hissing at John. Why didn't you tell me your mother was a fucking lawyer? I smiled. Let them panic. The real fight was just beginning. The neuropsychological evaluation took 6 hours spread across 2 days. Memory tests, logic puzzles, pattern recognition, verbal reasoning, executive function assessment. Count backward from 100 by sevens. The psychologist said, 193, 86, 79, 72. Spell world backward. DLROW. I'm going to give you 3 words. Remember them. We'll come back to them later. okay? 3 hours later, what were those 3 words? Apple, table, penny, correct. The psychologist asked about my history, education, career, daily activity. You practiced law for 25 years? Yes. Why did you stop? To spend time with my husband, to live a quieter life. Do you regret it? Not until my son sued me. She smiled faintly. How's your relationship with him now? Complicated. At the end, she sat across from me with her notes. Miss Sinclair, I'm going to be frank. Your cognitive function is exceptional. You scored in the 98th percentile for your age group. Your memory, reasoning, and executive function are all well above average. There is no evidence whatsoever of dementia, cognitive decline, or impaired judgment. Thank you. I have to ask, did your son really think you were incompetent? Or was this a tactic? Probably both. He wants to believe I'm failing so he can justify taking what his father left me. That's sad. It is. The report was filed with the court 2 days later. James called me immediately. You crushed it. 98th percentile. The judge is going to throw their case out. Good. Betty, I have to ask, are you thinking about countersuing? For what? Emotional distress, legal fees, defamation. They filed a public document calling you a fraud. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to make them pay for dragging me through this. But another part, the mother part, just wanted it to be over. Let's see how the next hearing goes, I said. The call came at midnight. I didn't recognize the number, but something made me answer. Mom, John's voice slurred. Drunk or exhausted or both. John? I'm sorry. God, Mom, I'm so sorry. Where are you? Hotel. Dana's asleep. I can't do this anymore. Do what? Pretend. Lie. Say those things about you in court. Mom, I know you didn't manipulate Dad. I know you're not incompetent. Dana kept pushing. She kept saying, we deserved the money, that you'd be fine, that you didn't need all of it. John, I'm weak. I know I'm weak. I should have told her no from the beginning. But she's so convincing. And I thought maybe she was right. Maybe you didn't need everything. Maybe Dad was just being emotional when he changed the will. Your father was protecting me. I know that now. But Dana made it seem like he was being manipulated, like you'd stolen his inheritance from me. I didn't steal anything. He gave it to me. I know. His voice broke. Mom, I don't know how to fix this. Drop the lawsuit. Dana won't let me. Dana doesn't control you. She does, though. That's the thing. She controls everything. Where we live, what we spend, who we see. I can't breathe around her. Then leave her. I can't afford to. Yes, you can. You have a job. You're capable. I'm 42 years old living in a house we can't afford because Dana insisted we needed to look successful. I'm drowning in debt. I need that inheritance. My heart sank. So this whole thing, the lawsuit, the accusations, it's about money? It's always been about money. Dana's been planning this since Dad got sick. She calculated what the estate was worth. She found the lawyer. She wrote the petition. I just signed it. John, listen to me. If you need money, we can work something out. But not like this. Not by dragging me through court and calling me a fraud. I know, I'm sorry. But Mom, I don't think I can stop it now. Yes, you can. Call your lawyer tomorrow. Drop the case. Dana will leave me. Then let her leave. You'll survive. Silence. Then, I don't know if I will. We stayed on the phone for another hour. By the end, John was soberer, but not less broken. After we hung up, I sat in the dark thinking about the boy I'd raised versus the man he'd become. Somewhere along the way, I'd failed him, and not by being a bad mother, but by not teaching him to stand up for himself, to recognize manipulation, to choose integrity over approval. Or maybe I'd taught him and he'd just forgotten. Either way, it was too late to fix it now. The courtroom was packed. Word had spread that legendary attorney Betty Ward was defending herself against her own son. I sat with James. John and Dana sat with Marcus, but John wouldn't look at me. Judge Morrison entered. Let's proceed. Mr. Webb, I've reviewed the competency evaluation. It shows Miss Sinclair is functioning at an exceptionally high cognitive level. Do you wish to challenge these findings? Marcus stood. Your Honor, we maintain that Miss Sinclair unduly influenced her husband. Based on what evidence? Based on the fact that she controlled his affairs. She was his wife of 40 years and his healthcare proxy. That's not undue influence. That's marriage. She isolated him from family. Mr. Sinclair visited his father regularly until the final month when he was hospitalized. There's no evidence of isolation. She changed his will. He changed his will of his own volition. With witnesses present, Marcus hesitated. Your Honor, we'd like to call Miss Sinclair to the stand. For what purpose? To question her about her husband's final days. Judge Morrison looked at me. Miss Sinclair, do you consent to testify? I stood. I do, Your Honor. I took the stand, swore to tell the truth. Marcus approached. Miss Sinclair, in the 3 months before your husband's death, did you discuss his will with him? Yes. Did you suggest he should leave everything to you? No. He told me what he'd done after it was already completed. But you benefited from this change? I benefit from my husband providing for me? Yes. That's not a crime. Did you know your son would be largely disinherited? I knew Richard had left him specific items. I didn't know the extent of the change until the will was read. And you didn't think to tell John before the reading. It wasn't my place. It was his father's will. His father's decision. Marcus paced. Miss Sinclair, you're a trained attorney. You know, estate law. Surely you knew this would cause conflict. I knew my son's wife was interested in money, but I hoped my son would respect his father's wishes. His father's wishes or your manipulation. James shot up. Objection. Counsel is testifying. Sustained. Mr. Webb, ask questions, don't make speeches. Marcus regrouped him. Miss Sinclair, do you believe you're entitled to your husband's entire estate? I believe I'm entitled to what my husband chose to give me, even if it means your son gets nothing. My son got what his father wanted him to have, which is almost nothing, which is what Richard determined was appropriate. And you had no input on that determination. None. Marcus studied me, then asked the question I'd been waiting for. Miss Sinclair, you practiced law for 25 years. You specialized in fraud. You know how to manipulate legal documents. Isn't it possible you used that expertise to manipulate your husband? I smiled. Mr. Webb, if I had wanted to manipulate my husband, I wouldn't have left evidence. I wouldn't have used a notary. I wouldn't have done it in a lawyer's office with witnesses. If I were committing fraud, you'd never know it happened. Because I'm that good. The courtroom went silent. Judge Morrison leaned forward. Are you saying you could have committed fraud if you wanted to? I'm saying I didn't need to. My husband loved me. He wanted to provide for me. That's not fraud. That's marriage. Marcus tried again. But you can't deny you have the expertise. I also have the expertise to defend myself against baseless accusations, which is what I'm doing right now. Your Honor. Mr. Webb, do you have any actual evidence? Any document? Any witness? Any proof beyond speculation that Miss Sinclair did anything improper? We have the will, which is legally valid, witnessed, notarized, and consistent with the deceased's stated intentions. But Mr. Webb, I'm going to save you some time. You have no case. You have speculation, innuendo, and a daughter-in-law who wants money. That's not enough. She turned to John. Mr. Sinclair, stand up. John stood slowly. Do you believe your mother manipulated your father? John looked at me. Then at Dana. Then back at the judge. I don't know. You don't know? You filed a lawsuit accusing her of fraud and you don't know? I thought, Dana said, so this isn't even your belief. This is your wife's belief that you signed your name to. Your Honor, Mr. Sinclair, your father left you his coin collection and his tools. Do you know why? No, because those were things you shared when you were young. Things he wanted you to remember him by. He didn't leave you his estate because he was worried, rightly, it seems, that your wife would pressure you to liquidate everything immediately rather than honoring his memory. Dana stood up. That's not fair. Mrs. Sinclair, sit down. We have rights. You have no rights here. This isn't your family. This isn't your inheritance. This is between a son and his mother, and you've poisoned that relationship for money. Judge Morrison picked up her gavel. This case is dismissed. John Sinclair's challenge to the will is denied. The will stands as written. Mr. Sinclair, you're ordered to pay your mother's legal fees, which I'm estimating at... She banged the gavel. Court adjourned. I found John in the parking lot, sitting in his car, head in his hands. Dana was nowhere to be seen. I knocked on the window. He looked up, eyes red. He rolled down the window. Mom, where's Dana? She left. Got an Uber. Said she couldn't believe I let this happen. Let what happen? The truth coming out. She's furious. Says I'm weak, says I should have fought harder. For what? Money that wasn't yours? He looked at me. I don't know anymore. I don't know what's real. John, I'm going to ask you something, and I want an honest answer. Okay. Do you love Dana? Or do you love what she represents? He was quiet for a long time. Then I don't know the difference anymore. That's your answer. I started to walk away. Mom, wait. I turned back. Can you forgive me? I thought about it. Eventually, maybe, but not today. Today I'm too hurt. I understand. John, your father left you those items because he loved you. He left me the estate because he loved me too. Both things can be true. But you let Dana convince you that love was a competition. That if I had more, you had less. I know. Do better. Be better for yourself, not for her. I got in my car and drove home. Behind me, John sat in his car in an empty parking lot, finally alone with his choices. 6 months later, John called. Mom, I left her. Dana? Yeah. Filed for divorce last week. She's furious. I imagine she is. She's trying to take everything. The house, the cars, my Do you have a lawyer? Yeah. A good one, but it's expensive. Silence hung between us. John, if you're calling to ask for money, I'm not. I'm calling to say I'm sorry. Really sorry for everything. The lawsuit, the accusations, the way I treated you. Okay, I know okay isn't the same as forgiveness. No, it's not. Mom, I need you to know I'm in therapy twice a week, working through everything. Why I let Dana control me. Why I turned against you. All of it. That's good. Is there any chance eventually we could rebuild? I looked out my window at the garden Richard and I had planted together, at the life we'd built. Maybe I said, but it'll take time. A lot of time. I have time. So, we talked for an hour, not about the lawsuit or the money, just about life, about how he was doing, what he was learning in therapy. It felt almost normal. When we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Not that everything would be fixed immediately, but that maybe someday we could find our way back to each other. I updated my will last month, not to punish John, but to be clear. Everything still goes to him eventually. The house, the savings, Richard's pension, all of it. But with conditions. He can't sell the house for 5 years. He has to keep Richard's coin collection intact. It goes to any grandchildren. If he remarries, his new spouse has no claim to the estate unless they've been married at least 10 years. And there's a trust not controlled by him, controlled by a trustee who can deny distributions. If John shows signs of financial recklessness, you're protecting him from himself, James said when I told him. I'm protecting Richard's legacy. John can have it all, but only if he proves he's worthy of it. That's harsh. That's love, real love, not the enabling kind. I signed the documents last week, filed them properly, made sure everything was ironclad, and I didn't tell John. He'll find out when I'm gone. Just like I found out about Richard's changes. Maybe he'll be angry. Maybe he'll understand. Either way, I'll have done what Richard and I built together. Protected what mattered. A year after the lawsuit, a letter arrived from Dana. I almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity won. Betty, I know you have no reason to read this. I know I destroyed your relationship with your son. I know I'm the villain in this story, but I need you to understand something. I didn't do it because I'm evil. I did it because I was desperate. John and I were drowning in debt, 6 figures. Credit cards, student loans, the mortgage on a house we couldn't afford. I thought if we got the inheritance, we could fix everything. Start over. Breathe. I convinced myself you didn't need the money. That you'd be fine, that John deserved it more because he had debt, and you didn't. I was wrong. I know that now. But at the time, all I could see was the debt, the pressure, the fear of losing everything. John left me because of what I did. Because I pushed him to hurt you. He's better off without me. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just asking you to know that I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was trying to survive. Dana, I read it twice. Then I folded it and put it in a drawer. Part of me felt sorry for her. Debt is terrifying. Desperation makes people do terrible things. But another part, the lawyer part, knew that desperation doesn't excuse cruelty, that fear doesn't justify fraud. Dana had made her choices. She'd tried to take what wasn't hers, and she'd lost. I didn't write back. Some people don't deserve closure. 2 years after the lawsuit, John came to dinner. He'd been coming once a month for the past 6 months, slowly rebuilding, slowly earning back trust. This is Dad's recipe, he said, tasting the lasagna. I made it exactly how he liked it. It's perfect. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then John spoke. Mom, I've been thinking about something. What? The will, Dad's will, the one I tried to contest. What about it? I want you to know I understand now why he did it. Why he left everything to you. To you. He was protecting you. From me. From Dana. From anyone who might try to take advantage of you. He was also providing for me. We built that life together. I know, and I'm glad he did it. I'm glad you have security. I'm glad you're comfortable. John, I mean it. I was so wrapped up in what I thought I deserved that I forgot you're still alive. Still here. Still his wife, even though he's gone. Thank you. And Mom, when you die, whenever that is, hopefully decades from now, I don't want the inheritance. I blinked. What? I don't want it. Give it to charity. Give it to someone who needs it. I've spent 2 years learning to live without it. Learning to be my own person. Building my own life. I don't need Dad's money. I need to be the kind of man Dad would be proud of. My throat tightened. He would be proud of you right now for saying that. You think so? I know so. We finished dinner, cleaned up together, and for the first time since Richard died, the house felt like a home again. Not the same home, but something new. Something built on honesty instead of expectation. I was in the garden when the memory hit. 5 years since Richard died? 3 years since the lawsuit ended? 2 years since John and I truly reconciled. I was planting roses, Richard's favorite, when I heard a car pull up. John got out, smiling. Hey, Mom, brought you something. He pulled out a small box. Inside was a coin. Old, tarnished, beautiful. This was from Dad's collection, he said. I wanted you to have it. It's the first coin he ever showed me. Told me about history, about value, about how some things are worth keeping. John, the collection is yours. I know, but this one should be yours. Because Dad was right. Some things are worth keeping. And you kept us. Even when I didn't deserve it. I took the coin, tears in my eyes. Thank you. Mom, I'm getting remarried. I looked up surprised. What? Her name is Kate. She's a teacher. She's kind. She's nothing like Dana. And she wants to meet you. I'd like that. She knows everything about the lawsuit, about Dana, about what I did, and she still wants to marry me, which I think means she's either crazy or a saint, or both. He laughed. Probably both. A woman got out of the car. Mid-30s, warm smile, nervous energy. Mrs. Sinclair. She held out her hand. I'm Kate. I've heard so much about you. Call me Betty. And I hope John told you the truth, not the sanitized version. He told me everything, including that you're basically a legend. Former legend. Retired. Still counts. We had dinner that night. The 3 of us, in the house Rich and I built, at the table where we'd shared 40 years of meals, and I realized something I'd won. Not the lawsuit, not the money, not the property. I'd won my son back. I'd won my self-respect. I'd won the right to live my life on my own terms. Dana had tried to take everything, but she'd failed because you can't take what someone refuses to give. And I'd refused to be bullied, refused to be diminished, refused to let anyone, even my own son, treat me like I was disposable. I'd stood in that courtroom and reminded everyone who I used to be, who I still was. Betty Ward, attorney, fighter, survivor. No one, not Dana, not John, not anyone, was ever going to make me forget that again. A month later, I was going through Richard's things when I found another letter, hidden in his desk drawer, addressed to me, dated 2 weeks before he died. My dearest Betty, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I'm guessing John has challenged the will. I know you're hurt. I know you feel betrayed, but I need you to understand something. I didn't change the will to punish John. I changed it to protect you because I knew Dana would push him to take everything, and I knew you'd let her if it meant keeping peace. But Betty, you've spent your whole life putting others first. You gave up your career for me. You gave up opportunities for John. You made yourself smaller so we could grow. It's time to stop making yourself small. The estate is yours, not because John doesn't deserve it, but because you do. You earned it. You built it alongside me. It belongs to you. Don't let anyone take it. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for accepting what's yours. And Betty, if John challenges this will, fight him. Not because I want you to hurt him, but because I want you to remember who you are. You're Betty Ward, the woman who terrified lawyers twice her size, the woman who never backed down, the woman I fell in love with. Don't let anyone make you forget that. I love you. Always have. Always. Richard. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Richard he'd known exactly what would happen, and he'd prepared me for it. Not by protecting me, but by reminding me to protect myself. I folded the letter carefully and put it with the will, with the court documents, with the evidence of everything I'd survived, and I smiled because Richard was right. I was Betty Ward. And no one, not even grief, not even family, not even love, was going to make me forget that again.